video today, we'll be talking about how to make this desk from scratch. Okay, we're going to start by making the legs of the desk. I bought some fur panel strips and we're going to start with sanding to make the painting job easier later. Make sure you sand all sides when you're doing this, and don't be a me. Remember to wear goggles on your actual eyes. Once you're done with sanding, you want to clean them really good to get all that dust off so you don't get dust in your paint. Now we're going to start by priming the pieces. I like Zinsser's Bullseye 123 primer. Start with light coats that will help you not have big drips later. I painted all three sides of each strip first, only leaving the one piece facing the bottom unpainted. I came back later and painted the one side then to have all four sides covered. I really like the Behr Marquee products. I feel like they're very forgiving, they go on well. I especially like Pure White. Just make sure you shake it really well before you pour it out to begin using it. The painting is done, so tomorrow, power tools. So that project did take up almost all of this little bottle of paint, but I do still have a little bit left for touch-ups.
What are you doing?
Power tools! But I can't get down. Here's the cut list for the height of the desk that I want. I do always start by cutting off just the ends of each piece so that I have a really clean end to work from. And then once that's done, I also cut off any imperfections I don't want as part of my project, though I do like some imperfections. It is wood after all. I started by measuring out the first piece size I needed. I did then create a fence for myself because I was going to be cutting multiple pieces at the same length. I wanted to quickly be able to make those cuts without continuously measuring over and over again, and that's what you're seeing in these clips here. Okay, moving on to 5 3/4. As the pieces grew in size, I stopped using the fence and I did measure one by one and then cut one by one. I did end up with all my cut pieces for the inside portion of the frame of what I was making. I have not yet cut any of the bigger pieces, but this is what they look like as they began to stack up for me. So for the next steps, we have to be pretty creative and we have to be strategic. There are little pieces that are going to go on the inside legs, and so they'd be impossible to put together later, so we're going to do them first. Okay, to get this middle piece right in the middle, you're going to be at 4 1/8. So for this piece, I did use wood glue. I clamped it as tight as I could get it, and then once the glue dries, I will reinforce with some brad nails. Okay, so the glue has set overnight, and this is what we have now. These were the smaller pieces. So I'm going to take this off, and then we are going to start with gluing the 5 3/4 with the 4 3/8 piece. I wanted to show you kind of a cool trick for figuring out the middle on where to put these two boards together. So we are putting the longer piece against the 4 3/8 piece, and I need to figure out how to center this one. So all you need to do is set it off to the side and measure the leftover distance that you have, which is 3 inches. So that is divided by 2, 1.5. So if I put this at 1.5, then I will have 1.5 on each side, and it will now be centered. Now I'm going to put all the inside pieces of the frame together with some wood glue. I'll clamp it tight, and then same thing, once the glue is dry, we'll reinforce with brad nails. I'm sure you're wondering why I bothered to paint these pieces before we got to this step. Obviously you can see there's going to be a lot of touch-up. I just find it easier to paint the pieces first, and then the only thing I have to worry about is touch-up later. Total personal preference. If you don't want to paint the pieces first, that's fine. Now that the base has been built, we do want to use some wood filler and clean up these lines. And we will fill them in with wood filler, then we will sand the wood filler, and then we will spot prime over each of those spots, and then we will do some touch-up paint with the white paint, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Alright, so while we wait for the wood filler to dry, I'm going to go ahead and sand and stain my two desktops. I'm going to sand it all smooth, then I will come back and talk to you a little bit about the stain that we'll be using. After sanding, I did clean off my boards, and now I'll be using this water-based stain. I do prefer the water-based. It's easier for cleanup, it's better for you. Please make sure you read the instructions on any stain. The stain should not be shaken like regular paint. It should only be stirred. The method I'm using is I am going to put it on first, kind of thick, and then I'm going to use just a cloth rag to rub off the excess. I don't want a very heavy stain. If you wanted a heavier stain than what you're seeing on mine, you would just keep the stain on longer or do a second coat of it. My, what a difference some wood stain makes, from some yellow pine to now this beautiful weathered gray. I do love that I can still see all the lines in the wood. So for the next part, we are going to start making the square frame of the legs. And to do that, we're going to take the smaller piece and the long piece, and we're going to connect them at a 90-degree angle. And to help us with that, I'm going to start by using this little clamp that I have to get them set into place. Now that we have it at a 90-degree angle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a drill bit and I'm going to drill in twice into this, the shorter of the bars, to be able to then put some screws in here. You always want to do a drill bit first, because if you just go right with the screws, it will likely split the wood. So just a note about the screw that I'm using a star screw, and you do want to make sure your screw is for wood. The reason that I like a star screw is it's much harder for the drill bit to come out when you're turning the screw. If you use a regular Phillips head, sometimes those slip out while you're drilling. These really lock in. So I highly recommend looking for star head screws. And almost all of the screws, the drill bit comes in the box with them. I do want to mention why I'm not bothering to countersink my screws here. The screws are designed that they're going to just be facing the desktop, so they'll be hidden, or they'll be facing the floor and you won't see them then either. Somehow I didn't record myself doing the screws on the other leg, but now I have a U shape, so I'm fitting in the middle design piece straight into the middle. Fits like a glove. Going to get it all situated before I put the final square top piece onto it. So we have confirmed that everything fits. It's looking really good. Obviously, we're gonna go back, we're gonna use wood filler, and we're gonna fix all the little seams and everything to make them look more seamless. But the plan is I'm going to use wood glue just for the sides to keep those connected. But then I am going to do screws on the bottom and this top little piece, so that when the whole top piece is put together, it'll hold everything in place. I do just want to take a minute to talk about clamps. Since we are doing the top one, obviously the wood, because it was just stock wood, is a little bit imperfect. And so we are using 2 clamps to line everything up. We have this long clamp that is making sure that the sides match up here and here. And then we're using the corner clamp to make sure this corner is perfect. I already did drill the holes with the bit, but I thought it was only fair to explain to you guys that you may need some clamps on your final step. You didn't do anything wrong if you have to use them. And there we go, guys, we did it! Congratulations if you're following along. This is what the final leg piece looks like. Obviously, there are some cracks and stuff that I want to go in and fill. I want to make everything super smooth, but we are almost done, and we just need one more leg, and then we can set our tabletop on top of it. Okay, I have to talk fast because my husband just left to go get a second drill because it was getting really exhausting putting the drill bit out and then the screw out. But you guys, get yourself an assistant. I can't tell you how helpful it's been today having him help me. What's better than 1 power tool? 2 power tools. Now that all the pieces have been screwed together and the wood filler has dried, it's time to sand it all flat. The idea is to have very few seams that are showing. I do have to say that sanding is my least favorite thing in any project. I'm back to using the Zinsser primer now. I'm just putting it on all the pieces that were sanded. I want to have really good coverage on that wood filler. Once the primer dries, I will be going back over it with my white paint. Now it's time to attach the leg. You do want to measure on each side to decide how far in you want your legs to be and how much overhang you want on this side, as well as the front and the back. This is totally your personal preference. Then you'll want to drill a hole again before you put in your screw. In complete transparency with you guys, this screw was way too long. It did end up going through to the other side of my board, so you'll see different screws as we go on. Rude! Back with the proper size screw, I'm here to now attach my leg, and we're moving right along to the finished product. And here you have it. This is the desk. This is what all that hard work was for. I built my own desk because I could never find a desk short enough for how I like to sit when I'm working, and because I find it incredibly satisfying to build my own furniture. If you end up making one of your own, please let me know. I will be so incredibly flattered. For now, if you like this project, please be sure to follow me on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram at PlainJaneDIY. Thanks. See you next time.